The question is, do you believe the next Congress can take significant steps to cut the budget deficit? Yes, no, not sure.
I'm going to the front page of the New York Times, which says, internal party rifts and partisan differences hamper progress. There's the big question. It seems like the one big consensus is going to be we're going to have a Republican House, but what's going to happen afterwards? Bill Clinton says that his White House got rolling after 2 years.
Right.
Obama, the test is going to be there for him. Is he going to work in conjunction with the Republicans or not?
Yeah, Bill Clinton already said, look, been there.
But what's interesting is the Times, I think, really has changed gear because they had a pretty harsh article 2 weeks ago in the magazine section about Obama, which if a conservative organization like Fox perhaps had said that, Democrats would say, this isn't true, it has to be lies. They didn't check their facts. But they lambasted him.
I believe that the next Congress can take significant steps to cut the budget deficit, and you're saying possibly not. You agree that looks like the Republicans will take over the House, but
I wish I could make the prediction. I would like to see them do that. I mean, every time I'm on the show, I like to remind people, what's the job of our elected officials? It's to be politicians, to make deals, not to sit at polar opposites and complain. I was going to say a bad word, and complain about one another. But they have to work together.
So what do you think? I mean,
Republicans have been talking about a balanced budget for eons. When I was in college, and that was a long time ago, we did a mock Senate, and 1974.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, 1974 to 78. We did a mock Senate, and of course we were all hippies then, so everybody wanted to be a Democrat. But I wrote to Senator Strom Thurmond, and he sent me like 20 boxes of all his policy reports and everything, and it was all about balancing the budget, but of course at the same time spending more money on the military and cutting taxes. Right. So they do have to work in conjunction. Your point is well taken, but if Obama wants to be more than a one-term president, he's going to have to work in conjunction with the Congress, or he's in trouble.
Tell you what.
Okay, I come in here with facts and figures all the time, and
I'm
always not talking about undercover boss yet, but people challenge me, go, where do you get this? Go on the internet. Inspector General, United States Inspector General, they write reports about government waste. I print out hundreds of pages and kill forests printing this stuff out. It's there. Over 7,510 people who work for the MTA make $150,000 or more per year, and that's much more than your average subway rider. It goes on and on and on. So I have this thought. Last week I mentioned maybe we could have governing with the stars instead of dancing with the stars. I think Obama has to send a cabinet member as like undercover boss and send them to the post office. I have stock in UPS and FedEx. They seem to be good, thriving companies. Why can't the government run the post office properly? It's a disaster.
I have to tell you, Rob, I love undercover boss, and
so
sitting inside of some of the federal workplaces, that might be really good.
I produced reality shows. I used to produce World Wrestling Entertainment. I would love to take a crew in there, behind the scenes at the post office. I would probably.
I don't want to. Listen, I don't want to just pick on
wrestling referred to as reality.
Well,
it's sports entertainment, as Vince McMahon would say.
No, I don't want to just pick on the post office. Post office.
Why not?
I think, I do think sending it behind the scenes, sending the cameras behind the scenes, see what happens inside of some of, even on the local levels too. Some of the city workers, state workers, as well as federal workers. It could be quite interesting.
It might really spur some action by the people.
I think one of the things. Conditions?
Well, look, the big irony is unions were started to fight the robber barons that were exploiting workers, and now the robber barons are really running the unions because they find it's a better way for them to make money and to exploit everybody else.
So, straight answer, do you think it's a good idea to maybe break up some unions?
You're putting me on the spot here. Wait a minute. No.
I think there's a big difference between public sector unions and private sector unions.
Thank you.
Private sector unions, as long as you have a right to work environment, meaning any employee doesn't have to join the union, that's fine. Okay. You know what? If you have an organization, that's freedom of association. You have people who voluntarily come together to act as a collective. I have no problem with that as long as you don't shut up people who don't join. But in the public sector, why do you have people to protect you from illegal employer activities when the employer is the government, the very people who uphold the laws?
Okay, I don't even know that.
I don't think anyone can answer that question.
The MTA is one of my big sticking points for me because I ride the subway and the buses all the time, and I deal with surly employees there. So they've switched over to Metro cards. Why do they still have token booth clerks who do nothing. If you just ask anybody there for a direction, how do I get to the E train? How can I get to Brooklyn? You may as well speak to a wall. The wall is nicer and has no response. They have a mean response.
So you're suggesting that to get rid of the token booth workers?
Well, I think obviously their union is protecting them and upholding this useless feather-bedded job. When I was younger, I had various little union jobs, and I'm a member of the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Actors, etc. But there have been unions I belonged to when I was in college and had part-time jobs that they just cut off. They took the union dues out of my salary, whether I wanted to or not, yet I got none of the union benefits. So that's unfair, and I was forced into something I shouldn't have been.
You don't get union benefits from SAG and AFTRA, are you saying?
No, this is, I just had different summer jobs when I was a kid, but they were union jobs, and I was forced to give my money out of my paycheck to the union without any union benefits or an actual membership.
They set up the rules that you have to pay.
It's called a cutoff.
Amount of union dues.
Of course, we're talking about Frank Caprio, if you haven't heard, who was miffed that Mr. Obama has refused to endorse him. So what do you think about Mr. Caprio? He did not take his words back. I saw him on, I think, the Today Show. He refused to take his words back. And he says, but he, with all due respect, he has a lot of respect for the president nonetheless.
It's a good thing he doesn't work for NPR. They would have fired him for saying that.
Well, it's not like the president.
Rob, what do you say?
I agree. I think no matter what party you're with, you have to have respect for the office, and it demeans everybody to disrespect the president, especially because if you go read further into the article, Obama had political commitments to make, so he couldn't give this guy an endorsement. That's the way politics work. On the other hand, I wanted to quote something from the Times last week that a White House source says Obama has very little patience for the inevitable theatrics of Washington. So I think that runs to a problem with Obama. It's just like being a movie star and saying, "Gee, I'm mad that all these people want my autograph." Well, welcome to politics.
Hang on, but I think.
And I'm a staunch Democrat. Keith Olbermann made an attack on President Bush that was kind of applauded.
And he told him which one was that?
Shut up, President Bush. And then someone said, how can you say that to the president? And he said, because I can't say F you on the air.
Well,
and that was like, ha, 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 ha,
That's not right either.
No, it's not. So, but again, Obama had a deity-like kind of image for a while, and suddenly that's crashed and burned, so maybe the facade has crumbled so dramatically that people think they can say whatever they want.
Yeah, see, someone just wrote in and said, regardless of who occupies it, the Oval Office and our President of the United States deserves the respect of Commander-in-Chief.
Back to that Times Magazine section article.
Part the waters.
He said he wanted to be a transformational president. He wanted to restore faith in government. I'm going to draw another analogy, not to FDR or Lincoln. I think the Obama presidency, although it's polar opposite, is structured very similarly to Reagan's. He likes to campaign. Reagan loved to campaign. They're both great communicators. They look great. They're charismatic. They had somebody running everything for them. Jim Baker ran Reagan's White House. Rahm Emanuel was running Obama's White House.
Okay, get to your point for me, because I've got to go to Catherine and Carriage.
Rahm Emanuel did not do as effective a job as Jim Baker did. Tell me to get to my point.
No.
Okay, you don't.
Well, we have an American Al-Qaeda, I think.
She's hoping that somehow the United States federal government would get involved.
Well, from what I know is that our military officials are unhappy with the way the Mexican military officials are handling it, and I think they're correct in their critique, which is they're going in and they're arresting cartel members, but they're not destroying any of the product. So there's plenty of new cartel members to come along, and they just replace the ones in jail. It's a horribly corrupt system. The police don't function, so they've tried to make a military operation, but we feel that their military operation is not being handled properly.
But isn't it beyond police corruption? And it's surely rampant, the police corruption. But now they're intimidated.
That's why the military's there.
I mean, if you've got people who's going to get their heads cut off and served in a suitcase.
Constantly.
How can you ask the folks who are supposedly there to protect and serve to actually do their jobs?
Well, that's why the military came in, except the military is just merely arresting people, which is not functional. You've got to burn the product.